بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. نويت التعلم والتعليم والتذكر والتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادات والاستفادة والحث على تمسك بكتاب الله جل جلاله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم. الدعاء إلى الهدى وضلالة الخير ابتغاء وجهه وقربه ومرضاته وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ومولانا محمد عبدك ورسولك النبي الأمي الحبيب المحبوب الأعلى القادر العظيم الجاه وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be praised, who has given us this opportunity to congregate once again. And inshallah azza wa jal, this being our second session of the virtues of Ramadan, or the Ramadan Matters that we do annually. And as you know, inshallah, today is going to be the final lesson regarding the inner dimensions of Ramadan and some fiqh aspects as well, inshallah. And then throughout the month of Ramadan, as the days go by, we'll be having various durus, lessons as we do normally every Ramadan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this a beneficial Ramadan for the whole ummah and a means of salvation for us in every sense of the word. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to make the most of Ramadan al-Kareem and make us benefit through it in every sense of the word. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to be exposed to His mercy and His forgiveness and pardoning and itqim and niran, expiation from hellfire for the whole ummah. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. And the most sincerest of intentions in the presence of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wa sahbihi barak sallam al-Fatiha. الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. So last week we went through some very important matters regarding Ramadan and the meaning of Ramadan and a few inner dimensions of Ramadan. And as I mentioned last week, that today we're going to go through some, inshallah, some very brief but important fiqh aspects, and thereafter some, inshallah, more emphasis upon how to make the most of Ramadan, inshallah. So, fasting itself, we have different types of fasting. The first and foremost is the obligatory one. And these are current fasts of Ramadan and missed fasts of Ramadan. And the penance, the kafara fast as well. Okay, the penance that you have to do for missing Ramadan. And then you have the necessary fasts. Now, these are the vow fasts. The necessary fasts are considered the vow fast and missed Ramadan fast and the penance, the necessary fast and the making up of optional fast that has been broken. You wouldn't have reading glasses, would you? Yeah. Jazakallah khairan. So I can see what I've written. So the necessary fasts, these are the vow fast and making up an optional fast that has been broken. An optional fast that has been broken is necessary to make it up. Okay, so the obligatory would be the fard, and then this is the wajib, the wajibat. And then we have the sunnah. These are the fasts of the 10th of Muharram al-Haram. This is a sunnah fast with the preceding day or the following day. So the 9th and 10th or the 10th and 11th. And then we have the mustahabat, the recommended fasts, okay, which fall into the boundary of sunnah. It's sunnah to keep them, but they are recommended. They are not an emphasized sunnah. This is according to the Hanafi fiqh. These are not emphasized. For example, Mondays and Thursdays and then the 6 days of Shawwal, okay, which can, I just want to point out here, be consecutive or they can be separate as well. They can be, so you can keep them one day after Al-Fitr, 6 in a row, or throughout the month of Shawwal, break them up throughout the month of Shawwal, inshallah. And then we have the day of Arafah. Now, the day of Arafah, it is a recommended fast. It falls into sunnah. To keep it is sunnah. To keep it is recommended, and the reward of it is of sunnah. Now, Arafat, according to the Hanafi school of thought, it's makruh for person who's gone for Hajj to keep it. purely based upon that being out there in the heat and performing the duties of Hajj itself, an individual may become fatigued and tired and not be able to fulfill the duties and the rights of Hajj, or not be able to keep the fast purely because of the environment and the circumstances they're in. So it's makruh for someone who's gone. If they are able to keep it, then by all means keep it. Okay, and then we have the 15th of Sha'ban, Nisfu Sha'ban. This is again a recommended fast. And then the clear days, which are often described as the white nights, the 13th, 14th, and 15th of every month. Okay, and then any 3 days in the month consecutively. This is also a recommended fast that an individual should keep. Now, what's severely offensive, makruh tahrim, close to haram. Okay, other fuqaha have actually said it is haram, but it's extremely offensive, is to fast on the 2 days of Eid and the Tashriq days. This is included. Ayyam Tashriq, after the day of Adha or Dhuhayyun, Eid al Adha, the Ayyam Tashriq. What's makruh tanzihi, slightly offensive, is to fast only on the 10th of Muharram al Haram, just that day itself, not one preceding or not one after either. Now, fasting is a personal obligation on every legal responsible individual able to fast. Hence, fasting is not obligatory for the following. For the following individuals, fasting is not obligatory for them because you have to be a mukallaf, in the sane state of mind, physically able. Okay, all the shurut, all the requirements are supposed to be there for an individual to fast. So we can't say to a non-believer that you fast and you're going to get rewarded for it. I know in the environment we live in, the communities we live in, we have friends and colleagues who, who like to, uh, billah, they say, join our suffering. If only they knew that they are joining our delight in fasting. But they like to imitate us or just to experience what it's like, just want to feel what it's like, and they fast. And some of them, mashallah, they make it throughout the whole day. But will they be rewarded for it? We can't say they will now. We don't even say inshallah they will be rewarded for it, because the shart is foremost what? The foremost requirement is iman qabla al-amal, faith before deed. Faith before deed. So you have to have faith in order for the deed to be accepted. And then someone who is insane. Now, when an individual who is insane, they have to be clinically and medically diagnosed to be insane. It's highly recommended to get a Muslim physician to diagnose the insanity. So if someone claims insanity, that's not enough. Medically, they have to be diagnosed. And then a child, now it's best for the guardian or the parent of the child to get children into the habit of fasting. Okay, but they are not required to fast. So anyone who's not reached the age of puberty, anyone below that, and then a person who is sick. Now, for the people who are sick, they themselves have to judge whether they are able to fast or not. Okay, now if an individual who is sick, who has an illness or a sickness, and they are able to fast without difficulty, then let them do so. However, if the fear is there that due to fasting the sickness will increase, yes, then, or worsen even, or they fear the recovery process of the illness, then they are not obligated to fast. Instead, it is better that they wait and then make up the missed days as per the hukum of the Quran al-Karim in Surah al-Baqarah. فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيضًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ. And we'll come to the travelers. Now, regarding the sick, this is again to be based upon the advice of a skilled Muslim physician or a doctor, medical expert, and their past experience and high probability is also taken into account for this. So it can't be someone who has no experience with this matter itself. They need to be experienced in this. That will fasting actually increase the illness or delay the process of healing? Only then is the advice sought and then taken. Okay. And if that individual doesn't expect to get better and they feed a poor person the equivalent of sadaqatul fitr for each day, then that's accepted if they're not expected to get better. And also, severe hunger or thirst that prevents a person fasting requires that the missed fast be made up. Okay. A traveler. Now, it is recommended for the traveler to fast unless it's too difficult. Then it becomes recommended not to fast. The traveler only has the option not to fast if he or she becomes a traveler at Fajr or pre-Fajr. Fajr or pre-Fajr. So if Fajr has started, then within that time, or even. So when Fajr ends, the sun has risen completely. After that, if they start traveling, it doesn't matter how long the day is then, they are not required to miss it. They have to keep that fast. This is regarding Ramadan. Okay. If they start traveling during the day after the day has started, it's prohibited for them to miss that fast in the month of Ramadan. And then we have elderly and frail people. Now, regarding elderly and frail people, if they are too weak and frail and unable to fast throughout the year, okay, throughout the year, then in the month of Ramadan, they're not expected to fast. And they compensate by feeding a poor person for each day. Pregnant and breastfeeding women, if they fear harm for themselves or for their children by fasting, it is permitted for them not to fast, but they must make up the missed days of fast. No payment is required. This is based on the advice of, again, skilled Muslim doctors or skilled Muslim midwife, past experience or high probability. Okay. Now, the past experience and high probability, if there is no doctor, but someone who has past experience of this, or there is a high probability and it's known by trustworthy people, then that will be taken into account as enough of a ruling, so they can give the ruling as well. Now, menstruating women and women in postnatal bleeding, it is not permitted for them to fast, and they must make up the missed days of fasting. They must make them up after Ramadan has ended. They should not imitate a fasting person either. Okay, instead, they should eat and drink normally, but do it in private out of haya, out of honor for those people who are fasting. Not to say that now it's shameful for them to eat and drink. Now, if a woman begins the day clean, meaning without being in the state of menstruation, and then menstruation then starts, she breaks her fast immediately. Okay. If she started menstruating and then became clean during the day, she abstains for the remainder of the day. But in both cases, that day of the fast will have to be made up. Okay. Now, it is a communal obligation on Muslims. We're coming towards moon sighting now. So this was just very brief. As we said, we're going into brief aspects of it. And then inshallah, we'll have some question and answers. It is a communal obligation on the Muslim to sight the new moon after the 29th of Sha'ban. Okay. If the new moon is seen, all Muslims fast wherever they are in the world. However, if it is an overcast, Sha'ban is then completed as 30 days. They fast the following day. It is severely offensive to fast on this day of uncertainty, Yawm Shak, the day of uncertainty, okay? Other than a regular optional fast. So if a person regularly fasts on the last day of the month, they are allowed to fast on Yawm Shak. Otherwise, it's highly offensive to do so. Now, if a person sees the Ramadan new moon alone, that individual will have to fast, even if the leader did not accept the testimony. Okay. Now, if the sky is overcast, the leader accepts the testimony of the trustworthy individual, whether they are male or female. However, if the sky is clear, testimony is only accepted from a large number determined by the leader. If a person sees the Shawwal new moon alone, he does not end fasting. Okay? If the sky is overcast, the leader only accepts the testimony of 2 male or 1 male and 2 female witnesses. However, if the sky is clear, testimony is only accepted from a large number determined by the leader. Now, fasting is only valid with an intention, with every day of Ramadan requiring a new intention. Thus, intending for the whole month at the beginning of the month is not valid. Do you understand? So you only made the intention right at the beginning that I'm going to fast, which is why نويت بصوم غد من شهر Ramadan, it is said. And if you're not able to say it with the tongue, at least you have the intention in your heart. This is what's taken into account. With the Shafi'i madhab, you have to say it with the tongue. When? The night before. So iftar today, soon as you've broken your fast, you will make the intention straight away to fast tomorrow with your tongue, according to the Shafi'i school of thought. Intention for current Ramadan fast or an optional fast is from Maghrib until the mid-morning. Okay? However, intending before Fajr is preferred. Now, intention for a missed fast or penance fast is from Maghrib until Fajr and cannot be after Fajr. You understand? It can't be after Salatul Fajr. If a person ate the pre-dawn meal without having an intention, the pre-dawn meal would be the intention. That would be counted as the intention. So if you done Sahri without the intention of fasting, and then you started fasting, then that would be accepted as, that would be taken on rather, as the intention. Now, the causes that invalidate the fast and require fast to be made up without penance, okay, without penance are as follows. Consuming an object that is normally used as nutrition or medicine, such as swallowing paper. Okay? Consuming nutrition or medicine with a legal excuse or under compulsion. Experiencing incomplete sexual desire which is ejaculation without penetration. Okay, so that fast would be made up without penance. So you only make up that one day. Okay. The cases that invalidate the fast and require the fast to be made up with penance are as follows. Consuming nutrition or medicine without a legal excuse. This includes a person who smokes cigarettes whilst fasting. Okay, so smoking does invalidate the fast, and then that day of fasting will have to be made up with the penance. Now, what's the ruling on Bakhur and Lobhan that we do? According to the Shafi'i mazhab, this will invalidate the fast. Whilst you're fasting, no Bakhur or Lobhan should be banned. Rather, after Maghrib and before Fajr, it should be done if you wish to do it. In the Hanafis, it doesn't, according to the Hanafi school, because this is not something that you are inhaling intentionally. Cigarette smoke is inhaled intentionally. It's just smoke in the air. Okay? Whereas if you were to hold the bakhur towards your nose and inhale it intentionally, then it's a different matter. But normally bakhur and loban is not done for that reason. Yeah. Now, if a person was eating before the Fajr Adhan and the Adhan was performed whilst he was still eating, he is not allowed to continue eating. You don't continue eating, stop eating. They must remove the remaining of the food from the mouth, and continue eating would break the fast. Okay? Using an inhaler breaks the fast of an asthmatic person who is considered excused due to his medical condition. Whereas in the Shafi'i school of thought, this won't break the fast, according to the Shafi'i fuqaha. And again, there's still some dispute over this, even with the Ahnaf, with the Hanafi ulama, that will it break the fast or not. But the sound opinion is that it will break the fast. If a person who is asthmatic and if they don't take the inhaler, if the asthma will trigger off or it will increase, then they are considered ill. They are considered sick. Do you understand? Hence, they are excused from fasting. Because that illness can worsen without taking. Fasting can increase the illness or decrease in healing. They can even die from an asthma attack. It's known. So that individual would generally be excused from fasting. Putting liquid into the nose or the eyes, yes, nose or the eyes, liquid breaks the fast, but putting it into the ears does not break the fast. You understand? Thus, applying ear drops and using nasal sprays, okay, breaks the fast, but using eye drops does not break the fast. You understand?
Nasal will break.
Nasal will break.
Ear and eye don't break.
So if you put liquid into the eye, that won't break the fast. Nose and ear will break the fast, which is why anything applied in the eye, such as kohl, it doesn't affect the fast. It doesn't break the fast. You understand? Some fuqaha have said that kohl will break the fast because it can go into the duct, the tear duct, and then travel down the throat. But this was looked into by Hanafi fuqaha in Ashrafiyya, who said that by the time that and the size of the granite from the coal that travels into the eye duct and goes down into the throat will be so minute it will disperse even before it reaches there. So there's nothing wrong in putting coal into your eyes and anya into your eyes, unless you get the coal and stick it in your mouth for Allah Jani. You understand? Uh, Cohabitation intentionally between husband and wife will break the fast, and penance is required, okay? As well as the ritual bath that is then taking place. Ghusl is also done then. The penance is as follows. Number one, penance is to free a slave. If you don't have a slave, it is to fast 2 consecutive months, such that if one day is missed, whatever the excuse may be, you restart that. So 60 days in a row. The only accepted excuse is the menstruation of a woman, whereby she continues her fast the very next day after the menstruation stops. And the third one, if a person is unable to fast, 60 poor people must be fed. Okay, 60 poor people must be fed. Now, it is not one meal, it's 2 meals. Okay, 2 meals. It is necessary for this order to be maintained whilst performing the penance. Okay. Now it's stated in the books of Hanafi fiqh. It was believed that there was a passage from the ear to the brain, and that there was no passage from the eyes to the brain. Current medicine has confirmed the opposite. So the Hanafi opinion has changed because current medicine, scientific investigation has confirmed it's actually the opposite case. Okay. Penance is required if a person starts a fast and breaks it, or starts a fast with an intention after daybreak and breaks it before the late mid-morning. Additionally, one penance is enough for a number of broken fasts. If a person invalidates a Ramadan fast, it is necessary to abstain for the remainder of the day. Okay. Now the following does not invalidate the fast. The following does not invalidate the fast. Eating, drinking, or cohabitation between husband and wife forgetfully. If you forget that you're fasting and you eat or drink, or a husband and wife get together, if you forget that you're fasting, your fast is not broken. Fasting, now breaking the fast mistakenly does not invalidate the fast and requires the fast to be made up without a penance. So what would happen? Say, for example, you ate by mistake. Yes? So that fast is not broken. Some of the Hanafi fuqaha have said that you make that up. You make that fast up. Others have said you don't make it up because the fast was not broken in the first place. Now, this again is an issue that fuqaha have differed amongst. The vast majority of them say no, you don't make it up, and they based it on the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which means that if a fasting person eats or drinks by mistake, it was Allah who chose to feed them. Allah chose to feed them. So why are you going to make up for something Allah chose? Do you understand? So there is some ikhtilafat there. Eating anything between the teeth less than the size of a chickpea. Okay? This does not invalidate the fast. This does not invalidate the fast. But then you don't start looking for bits of food. That's just nasty then, isn't it? Involuntary vomiting or induced vomiting less than a mouthful. Okay, less than a mouthful. Now, even if that means there's bouts of vomit, and even if a bucket is full, so you have less than a mouthful, and then 2 minutes later you've done it again, 2 minutes later you've done it again, that won't invalidate your fast. If it's a mouthful that covers the entirety of the mouth or more, then that fast is broken. Okay, having a wet dream does not break the fast. Delaying performing ritual bath, even if it results in the fasting person remaining impure all day, that won't invalidate your fast. You can still fast. Okay, so if ghusl becomes fard upon you, obligatory now, that whole day you are still able to fast. Swallowing the likes of dust particles or flies, etc., which are small and unavoidable. So, for example, if you fell asleep and your mouth is left open, as he does, and then a fly went into your mouth and you got and you swallowed it, and you're fasting, your fast is not invalid. Okay, it's the same with passive smoking and incense and bakhur, as we mentioned earlier, or the spraying of deodorants, for example, or aftershave and what have you. This does not break or invalidate the fast. Bleeding, even if the mouth was bleeding, okay, this will not invalidate your fast. There has to be a certain amount of blood in the teeth or the gums that you could taste went down the throat. Only that. Okay, so if your saliva has blood in it and you taste it go down, only then is the fast broken. Having an injection, as we mentioned last week, this does not break the fast. Okay, now the following points are offensive, makruh, during the fast. Undermining an offensive act is a sinful act itself, and constantly doing it by undermining it, by thinking it's only makruh, will eventually lead to haram. For example, any action that will weaken your physical body whilst you're fasting, if you undermine it, when it's not necessary for you to do, you don't have to do it, but you choose to do it, and you know full well that your body will physically become weak, meaning what? You won't be able to pray salah properly, or you won't be able to stay awake properly because you performed that action. Going to the gym, for instance, whilst you're fasting, or playing football or any sports whilst you're fasting, it's disapproved of. Okay, it's disapproved as makruh. Tasting or chewing something, okay? Tasting or chewing something is makruh during your fast. This is only allowed, say, for example, a woman was cooking food for iftar, okay, and her husband is harsh with her, and he needs a certain amount of chilies in the food, for example. She's allowed to taste it by dabbing her tongue with it. Do you understand? If they have strict, narrow-minded husbands like that. So she's allowed in that instance. Or a mother was feeding a child, okay, and she has to chew the food to soften it. If it's solid food and she needs to chew it to soften it, break it down, okay. If no one else is available to do it, then the mother is allowed in that instance. Husband and wife kissing or have any intimate contact, okay. If the fear is there that any ejaculation will take place, or you may go further, then it's makruh to kiss or have any physical contact. Otherwise, avoid even that completely whilst you're fasting. Otherwise, it's going to be on your mind constantly and it's going to spoil the state of the fast. However, if it is not offensive, meaning nothing like that is offensive between husband and wife anyway, none of it is. Offensive meaning if you're doing it to the extent where now it's going to go further, it's becoming offensive now because you're fasting. So stop it. Otherwise, there's nothing wrong with it. Gathering saliva in the mouth and swallowing it, this is makruh. Generally, swallowing saliva that is normally in the mouth, there's nothing wrong with that. But collecting it in your mouth and then swallowing it, likewise, it is not necessary for a person to keep his mouth dry by continuously spitting saliva out. You will see some people who are fasting and they're constantly spitting, trying to keep the mouth dry. What's the reason you're doing that? It's not affecting your fasting in any way whatsoever. It's just a natural inclination that come. It's like, for example, not going to the toilet whilst you're fasting. Why you're going to keep the liquid or the inside me, the pet bharelut piyo. What is that? What kind of an understanding is that? Okay, the following are not offensive at all. Using the toothstick at any time during the day, however, using the flavored toothstick, the siwak, the flavored ones, those are offensive. Okay, those ones are offensive. Using toothpaste is also offensive. So if a person wants to clean their teeth after waking up, you can use a toothbrush or a toothstick, but don't apply toothpaste to it. Now, rinsing the mouth and the nose, okay, because the fear is the liquid is going to go. So you do it only to a certain extent. So if you're fasting, you put the water in and you spit it out. Put the water in your mouth, spit it. Nose, you put the water in. You don't breathe it in. You only apply it there and you clean your nose. This is whilst you're fasting. After a person has performed ablution, he does not need to dry out his mouth. Any drops that remain after having removed the water from the mouth are exempted. Okay? Taking a shower, there's nothing wrong with taking a shower whilst you're fasting. Applying attar, any sort of scent, there's nothing wrong with it. If anything, it's a sunnah to apply attar. Now, these things, the following things are recommended for a fasting person. Pre-dawn meal, which ends at Fajr, the Sahri. This is recommended. Purposefully missing it out or neglecting it or undermining it, you will be sinful eventually. Eventually, you will be deemed sinful. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ has spoken about it specifically. He said what? In which means that have the suhoor, keep suhoor, do sahri, for indeed there is a blessing in it. And the blessing that is found in there can't be found anywhere else. So do sahri. Okay? So if a person wakes up late without eating anything at sahri time before Fajr, you can fast as normal. Your fast is still valid. However, it is recommended that there be a gap between the pre-dawn meal and the beginning of Fajr. Okay? So when the Prophet ﷺ said, eat sahri till late and do iftar quickly, this does not mean you wait till the last second of Fajr and you keep eating till then. No. There should be a slight gap. 5 to 6 minutes is recommended, up to 10 minutes. So if you know in 10 minutes time Fajr is starting, stop eating, clean your mouth up, brush your teeth and what have you, and then spend that time doing what? Dua. It's the time for acceptance of dua. It shouldn't be a case of finish sahri, straight away stand up and pray Fajr. No. Wash your hands, wash your mouth out, clean everything out, brush your teeth and what have you. Okay? So there's no scent of food left in your mouth, food and drink. Eating immediately after Maghrib without delay. So don't delay your iftar. Okay? This should not result in the Maghrib prayer being delayed into the offensive time, into the makruh time. So you eat, you break your fast, and then you get up, pray Maghrib, and then you can have your meal and what have you. It shouldn't be the case where you sit down and you have a large meal, you know, and by the time you look, oh, I've been eating for 45 minutes. But now I've eaten so much, I can't even bother to get up. You go into a food coma and just lie down. You know, breaking of the fast is that itself. Iftar means break fast. So you break it. Okay, so as we know, as per the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, 1 or 3 or 5 dates, sipping of the water whilst reciting the dua, Okay, this particular dua that people recite before the fast is broken is incorrect. And they say, Allahumma inni laka sumtu wa bika amantu wa alayka tawakkaltu wa ala rizqika aftartu fataqabbal minni. And then they break the fast. Well, you've not done what you said in the dua, because the dua is fa'al madi, meaning it's in the past tense. Allahumma inni laka sumtu. Oh my Lord, for you I had fasted. Wa bika amantu, and then I relied upon you, I had faith in you. وَعَلَيْكَ تَوَكَّلْتُ, and I left it to you. وَعَلَى رِزْقِكَ أَفْطَرْتُ, and the food that you gave me, I broke my fast with it. فَتَقَبَّلْ مِنِّي. You've not even broken your fast. What are you saying? You're still fasting and you're praying this dua. The meaning of the dua needs to be put into action. So you break your fast and then Allahumma inna laka sumtu wa bika amantu wa alayka tawakkaltu wa ala rizqika aftartu fataqabbal minni. And it's the time for dua, not just involving yourself in eating. You could literally be breaking your fast and doing dua. Okay, eating food, grapes, whatever your habit is. If you're not in the habit of eating dates, or you're not able to eat dates for whatever reason, water. Okay, if you drink water and then you start feeling nausea straight away, then pinch of salt, literally a bit of salt, make it touch your tongue. So the flavor envelopes your mouth, you can swallow the salt, your fast is then broken. You understand? Breaking the fast with an odd number of dates, okay, or with water or something sweet. Okay, now inshallah, close to the last 10 days of Ramadan, the dars about i'tikaf will take place, inshallah. One of the asatiza here will give the dars, as inshallah I will be arriving the 22nd of Ramadan from Umrah, inshallah. So by that time, the last 10 days would have started, inshallah. Wa billahi tawfiq. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa barik wa sallim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.
اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى آله. ربنا انفعنا بما علمتنا. ربي علمنا الذي ينفعنا. ربي فقه أهلنا وقربات لنا في ديننا مع أهل قطر أوثى وذكر. ربي فقهم لما ترضي قولا وفعلا كرما، وارزق لقولا حلالا دائما، وحلا أثقاء علماء تحظى بخير ونكفى كل شر. ربنا واصلح لنا كل شؤون واقرض بالرضا منك عيون، وقت أن ربنا كل ديون قبل أن تأتينا رسل المؤمنون، واغفر الستر أنت وأكرم الستر. وصلاة الله تغشى المصطفى من إلى الخلق حق دعانا والفا بكتاب فيه للناس شفاء، وعلى آل كرم الشرفاء، وعلى رسال مصيبه الغرر. اللهم اهدنا بهداك واجعل ممن يسارع في رضاك، ولا تولنا بولي سواك، ولا تجعلنا ممن خلف أمرنا وعصاك. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم، والحمد لله رب العالمين في كل لحظة ورضا خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته.
يا ربنا اعترفنا بأننا اقترفنا
وأننا
أشرفنا على لظى أشرفنا،
فتب علينا
توبة تكسل لكل حوبة،
واستر لنا
العورات وآمن الروعات،
واغفر
لوالدينا ربي ومولدينا
والأهل
والإخوان وسائر الخلان،
وكل ذي
محبة أو جيرة أو صحبة،
والمسلمين
أجمع آمين ربي أسمع، فضلا وجود منا لا باكتساب منا، بالمصطفى رسولي نهضى بكل سولي،
صلى
وسلم ربي
عليه
عد حبي
وآله وصحبه عداد صحبه،
والحمد لله في بدء والتناهي. وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. في كل لحظة أبدا عدد خلق ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته.